In this video, we're going to talk about a shift rod bushing. Specifically, this bushing that is used in classic VW vehicles. Now, part of the issue is that a lot of people aren't even aware it exists. And there's a good reason for that. And the reason for that is that the bushing is located in here. This is the tunnel of the car. This is the stick shift. And so you can't see it. It does its job totally out of view. So to aid in our discussion of the shift rod bushing, we have this mock-up. This represents the tunnel in the car, and this of course is a normal stick shift. So they call this the stick shift lever. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this around, and you'll see that we've cut away an area so that we can view inside the tunnel and see what's going on. Here's an exploded view of the system, but we're going to show it to you in operation. So here it is. I simply turn this around. This is our mock-up view. Again, this is the stick shift lever up here. This is the shift rod. That simply goes back to the transaxle, and it would mate to the transaxle through a coupler. And that's what affects your gear change then. So inside here we can see a hanger which is spot welded to the bottom side of the tunnel here. And let me show you what one looks like loose. Okay, so this is the hanger. This is the piece that your stick shift lever components then mounts to. The bolt is part of the hanger, or I mean the nut is part of the hanger. And so that's mounted up in here. Like I said, they're spot welded in place so that when you remove the stick shift lever, it stays in place. It's part of the tunnel, basically. They can be chiseled out, removed, and replaced. Kind of a pain. You're not going to want to do that. Well, normally when you replace this bushing, this is your only access. This hole that we've cut here for demonstration purposes does not exist. This is solid metal like you saw on the other side. You have only access to that bushing is through this top hole right here. And we'll remove this in a bit and show you. So what we have is you have this hanger and you have this nylon bushing. The nylon bushing goes into this hanger, and then there's a little clip that goes on right here that holds it tight around the shift rod. You can see the clip right there. There's the bushing, this is the hanger, that's the shift rod. So the purpose of that is to support it in the center of the hanger and to allow this to be able to move. And so we're going to zoom in more. Let me see. So hopefully you can see it. And what we're looking for is when we shift gears, that shift rod is going to move. So I'm in the neutral position right now. If I put it into first, that would be like that. Bring it straight back to second, to neutral, over, third, fourth. And so what you see is here's neutral. And when I go between the first and second side and the third and fourth, you'll see that it rotates. This shaft is rotating. Just a few degrees, not a whole lot. And this is because there's no transmission attach this. First and second is a little more over amplified here as far as the total travel. There's not a whole lot of travel. And this is exactly what it is between first and second, and then third and fourth in neutral here. So that's the normal operation, the way that it should work. This is the stock setup with the hanger. Your bushing, your clip. To put that in there, you're going to have to go through the top, and so you're going to go in with the bushing through here and work it in there. This is your only access. Now the problem is these bushings, the originals back in the day, were quite good. They lasted many, many years. Today the replacements are crap. They don't last very long at all. And so you can see how thin this distance is here, where that groove is. So the thickness of this is not very thick. Let's measure that. Well, I measured it, and measuring it right here, we're about a 1/16 of an inch at the end view here. But where the groove is half that. It's about a 32nd of an inch. So there's not a lot of material there. And that's what typically fails, is that this bushing will separate right here in the center, right where it goes, you know, mounts into this hanger. That's where it will separate. And you have two pieces. And then they eventually even fall off the rod. But a lot of times it'll still be on the rod and it's just hanging loose. Okay? It's no longer supporting the rod in there like it's supposed to. Bottom line is that this nylon bushing doesn't last very long, and they're a pain to install because I can only install it through this little hole, and I got to push it into this hanger, and then I have to put this little clip on there. So it's not something I'm going to want to do too often. The other issue is that to do that I have to remove the shift rod, and it has to go out through the front of the vehicle, and that's the front, that direction. So you have to remove the stick shift lever and then pull this out, and we have a method for doing that that makes it much easier than normal. But before we go that next step, let me show you what this looks like and sounds like after this bushing has failed. So you'll notice in this shot there's no bushing in there. We're simulating the fact that the bushing has deteriorated, is gone, and you'll usually have a piece hanging over here and a piece hanging over there, and so there's nothing supporting the shift rod in the hanger. So what happens is, because now when you move this back and forth between, you know, in neutral, between what would be second and, you know, first and second and third and fourth, instead of rotating as much, it just slops back and forth in here. See that? And so what happens because of that is that there is difficulty in getting it into first and second, and even reverse, because reverse we're going to go down, over, and back, and we're not going to get the amount of rotation in that rod. It's going to want to slop back and forth. So that's what causes, you know, difficulty shifting. There's other causes that can make shifting difficult, but that's a major cause, because this bushing is a major failure item. Now, because of the hassle factor in replacing the bushing, It's not the cost. This bushing with the associated clip, they're a couple bucks. Price isn't the issue. The issue is the pain in the rear to replace it. We need to remove the stick shift lever, remove the shift rod, and then replace that bushing with only the access through this little hole. So it's not something you're going to want to do very often. And what we've heard over the years is a lot of these new ones only go a couple years. And of course it depends on how much you drive the car and so forth, and the type of driving. If you're doing a lot of shifting in town and so forth, it's not going to last as long as if you're doing mostly freeway driving and it's staying in one gear. But it is a high failure item, pain to replace. So this is what EV4U suggests is this. This is a bronze bushing. A lot of people mistakenly call it brass. This is bronze. This is impregnated bronze. It's impregnated with a 30 weight oil. It's a porous, hard metal. And so it retains the oil in the pores of this. And so it's self-lubricating. We saw how much motion that there is there. You will never wear this bushing out. And that's why we guarantee them for as long as you own your car. So again, here's our hanger. The bushing goes into the hanger. Do it this way so you can see it better. The bushing goes into the hanger, and then this clip goes on, just a split ring clip. It goes on, and that holds that bushing in the hanger, and the shift rod goes in here. So this allows you get the original full motion of your shift rod so that you have crisp shifting. It also has less drag. This is what's called a clearance fit. So that shift rod just fits in there just really nice. But it's able to move with less effort than this one. This ring right here fits on there very tight. And so it adds resistance to that. And so you're always, fighting against that resistance. It's not huge, but this is a much easier, faster shift. It's also much easier to install the shift rod back in there through this bronze bushing than it is through this nylon bushing. Now, same issue as you had with the nylon bushing, you're going to have with the bronze bushing. And that is, you have to install it in this hanger through this little hole in the dark. But have no fear. EV4U has developed an installation kit that allows you to install this, and the average time for novices, people who've never done this before, and we've talked to a lot of people over the years, the average seems to be about 45 minutes, and that's to remove the components, clean your shift rod, and install the bronze bushing and replace all the other components. Now, one of the things that all the books I've ever seen, all the repair manuals, talk about removing this shift rod with pliers. And when you're gripping that with pliers through this hole right here, and you're putting the pliers on there and you're moving a little bit and then moving a little bit, This is actually a tube. It's hollow inside. It's thin-walled, and it's a fairly soft material, and they are chewed up and gouged by using the pliers. So now you have this gouged up piece that you're putting in, and you're feeding it back in, so you've got the, so even if you cleaned it up after you removed it, the pliers, you're gouging it back up before it goes through this nylon bushing, which is, like little knives, and it just helps speed up the process of this thing failing. We have a video currently on YouTube, shows you how to install the shift rod. Shows you how to remove it and install it, but once you remove it, you're probably going to see that it's been gouged up from previous removals. You want to clean that up and then install it. So using the method in that video, it's using a piece of PVC pipe. Check out that video. It makes a much faster and easier removal and installation of the shift rod, and it also allows you to do it without damaging the shift rod or the bushing, whichever one you chose to install, because those gouges aren't going to be good for the bronze one either, but they're not going to affect the life of it as far as it affects you, because this bushing will probably outlast all of us. You're not going to replace one. So in the next video, we're going to show you how to install this bushing in this hanger in the vehicle using our installation kit, so that you can replace this one time only. Forget about it. Goes back to being invisible again. You'll never worry about it again. And if you have sloppy shifting, it's because you've got some other issue, but it won't be the shift rod bushing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.